mud, and right in the middle of this mosh pit, it was probably about a foot and a half deep. And so these kids are just going crazy, and there was thousands of people there. There must have been, I would say, if I had to guess, I would probably say there might have been like 10,000 people there. It was a good showing, and it was a lot bigger than I was expecting. And they had this stage set up out in this field, and it had the lights and this, the metal framework going around, and they had this great sound system, and they had these gigantic speakers there. And I'm going around, and I'm walking, and I'm kind of getting to the groove of it, and I had consumed my adult beverages and started to get into the mix of the crowd. Number one, dancing, having a good time, sloshing through the mud, and number two, trying to find these two girls that we were supposed to meet. In this crowd, what was happening was everybody was getting all muddy, and it quickly became kind of difficult to identify, separate people, because everybody was just this like shade of like beige brown. And I kind of went around the mud, kind of dancing with the group and everything, and listened to the music, really getting into that. And they had these people that were climbing up on the stage, and they were speaker diving. And I thought that was pretty cool, because these speakers were like massive. They're like 10 feet tall, and not including being on top of the stage, which was like another couple of feet. And they're climbing up the back of these speakers, and they're jumping out into the crowd, and they're doing that like crowd surfing, and it was working. I've seen it sometimes where people do that. They jump off the speakers to go speaker diving, and they're thinking that the crowd's going to catch them. And I've seen it a couple times where it didn't work out that way. But, people are catching them, everyone's being real cool, and people kind of, floating on top of the crowd, doing the crowd surfing there, hand over hand. And I'm like, shoot, let me give this a try. So I climbed up and I jumped off. I did that about, I think, 3 times, and that was kind of fun. And then I went over to where this barn was. And what people were doing was, it was a barn. It was like an old kind of just, fallen down barn, but I guess it was still intact. And it was full of hay. And they had this entire area of where the concert was. I guess they were trying to kind of like rope it off, but instead of using like rope, it was such like a large area, they just used these hay bales, and they put them like one kind of like right next to each other, kind of like maybe like auto racing, how they make like kind of like the track, the perimeter to stay in. I guess maybe hoping people actually stayed in those areas. And they were climbing up to the top of this barn, to the roof. There was like a roof access. And there was like you climbed up the haystacks, and people were jumping off the roof into the pool. And because it was so close. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I got to do that too. And so I climb in, you climb up these hay bales, and then you're at this like upper level. Then there's this like little ladder that's got this like roof hatch, and you got to climb up and walk on the roof. And that was kind of terrifying, because the roof was actually kind of somewhat steep. Well, let's just say you had people that had consumed quite a few adult beverages, and they were, well, they looked like they were having a really good time, all hollering and screaming, and people just like running around, and this pool was, well, if I wasn't just such a goofy kid, I at the time, just kind of not really caring too much about some of the details, I would have, now I would consider this pool actually pretty disgusting, because what it was is they had these kegs. I guess they had kegs at one point at this beverage stand, and they had the kegs over there, and they were kind of using them as flotation devices. So you had all these people in this pool. It was all dirty, and you had clothes, various articles of clothing, all kind of scattered about the pool, floating down the bottom everywhere, and these people, they were doing chicken fighting, and I seen this one guy. He's riding on top of this keg in the pool, and he's like riding it like a bucking bronco or something. I don't know who he thought he was, but he's like all doing the Yahoo thing on that, and people were just jumping off one at a time off this roof and doing like cannonballs into the pool. And I'm sitting there kind of watching how they're doing, and I'm like, well, we're kind of far up here. I want to make sure I'm doing this right. And they're just jumping right off. So I kind of got to the edge because I was the next one in line, and I was kind of waiting and waiting. I'm like, oh damn, that's kind of far down. And they're all like, jump, 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 jump. So I jumped, and ended up jumping in and did that a couple times. And then Kind of got out. I was walking around some more, and it was driving me crazy because up at the top there, it was the most awesome view. I was just kind of, partly I was kind of hesitating to jump, but at the same time, I'm kind of like looking around, going, "Wow, look at this!" Because you could see everything. It was a great view, and you had all these like, it almost looked like fireflies. Because what people were doing was they were taking the sticks out of the fire, out of the bonfire, that was kind of close to where the pool was, and you had a kind of a group right around there, and they're taking the sticks out and they're running around with them. And so you had all these people running around with these flaming torches all throughout this gigantic field, kind of around the edges of where the concert were at. And I'm thinking like, number one, it's kind of a bit of a fire hazard. Number two, it's kind of neat looking too, because like I said, it was like just a bunch of fireflies. There was like little lights running around, and kind of lit up some of the areas that you couldn't see because people were standing there with their fire going. Anyway, I jumped around and I went over to the mud pit there and kind of ran around that a little bit. People were like running and diving. They were like opening up like some area where they weren't standing, and it was almost like, I won't say like a slip and slide, but because you were just going on dirt. It was like mud, and so people were like running, and they're kind of like just like 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 skimming across the surface of this mud, creating like a little wake, and they're like just the wake would splash everybody. People get a run start on that, and did that. And that was a little ridiculous. And I kind of quickly kind of got tired. It was a long day, it was a long drive, it was hot, and it was during the summer, and I had been running around doing cannonballs off the roof, and I'm sitting there trying to find my brother, and I'm trying to find these girls, and I'm just like, what the heck is this? Well, I'm sitting listening to the band, and they were just, I'm like, well, let me come over here away from this crowd, because they're all like, elbowing everybody and everything. And so I came over, and there was this haystack there, and it wasn't even like hay bales. It was actually like kind of like just a haystack. And I'm like, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm like, maybe if I get up to the top here, because this was actually kind of closer towards the actual stage. I said, maybe here I'll just sit here and wait, see if I can see anybody I recognize. And man, that hay, it was so comfortable. Not only was I tired and sunburnt and all this business, but the hay, you absolutely just sank in it. It just like wraps around you, and it's like warm. And